Ambassador Lyra walked through the quiet hallway of the Galactic Council Embassy, her steps echoing softly against the polished floor. The lights above glowed in a gentle blue hue, designed to keep visitors calm and relaxed. She carried her usual datapad, expecting nothing more than a routine meeting with the new representative from Earth. Humans had joined the Council only a few years ago, and while they were still considered a young species, many admired their creativity and surprising adaptability. Lyra herself found them interesting, always curious, always eager to learn, and always full of ideas. Today she planned to discuss a few peaceful trade proposals and cultural exchange programs with Earth's representative, Ethan Cole. But as she reached the door of the briefing chamber, she sensed something unusual. A soft glow was leaking from under the door, unlike the normal white light of the room. It flickered with slow pulses, almost like a heartbeat. Lyra paused, her antennae lifting slightly in instinctive alertness. At fear. Just curiosity mixed with caution. She pressed her hand gently against the panel, and the door slid open without a sound. What she saw made her stop completely. In the center of the room stood Ethan Cole. His posture was calm, relaxed even, but in his hands he held a shimmering, cube-shaped artifact that floated slightly above his palms. Soft waves of colorful light rippled across its surface, spreading gentle reflections along the walls. Lyra recognized it instantly. The Aurora Core, a device so ancient that even the oldest archives called it a relic of a forgotten age. A device so restricted that only high-rank council engineers were even allowed to look at it, much less touch it. A device so mysterious that no species had ever fully understood its purpose. Yet, Ethan stood there holding it with an expression of quiet focus, as if he had spent years studying it. Lyra's voice came out soft but steady. "Human Representative Ethan, where did you get that?" Ethan looked up, surprised but not panicked. His brown eyes reflected the colors of the glowing artifact, giving him an almost surreal appearance. He offered a polite smile in Earth habit Lyra had grown used to. "Oh, Ambassador Lyra," he said calmly. "I was actually hoping to show you this today. I found something interesting." She blinked slowly. "Interesting?" "That is forbidden technology. That artifact is not supposed to be here. Not in your hands. Not in this room. Not anywhere outside the secure vault." Ethan glanced at the cube again, then back at her. "I know, but the vault let me take it." Lyra nearly dropped her datapad. The vault. Allowed it? That is not possible. The secure vault was built with layers upon layers of biometric locks, energy barriers, and coded permissions. It responded only to council-approved individuals, and only when specific access logs were cleared. Humans did not have such clearance. Not even close. Ethan seemed to understand her disbelief. "I was in the vault section because I was helping review old star maps for today's meeting. While I was there, the security field opened by itself. This artifact slid out of one of the pods, like it was waiting for me." Lyra stepped closer, slowly. As though approaching something very delicate, the Aurora Core pulsed softly again. She felt its presence not dangerous, just strangely aware, almost curious. It radiated a gentle hum that resonated through the air like a peaceful melody. Despite her confusion, the energy around it felt calm, not alarming. Still, she knew how the council viewed it, too advanced for modern civilizations. Too unpredictable to decode, too mysterious to risk activation. "Ethan," she said carefully, "please place the artifact on the table. Do not attempt to activate it." He nodded and gently set it down. The moment he released it, the core floated a few centimeters above the surface, as if weight meant nothing to it. Lyra circled the table, examining both Ethan and the device. She expected alarms to trigger, guards to rush in, or at least some kind of automated shutdown sequence. But the room remained silent. "What exactly did you do to it?" she asked. "Nothing," Ethan said. "When it came out of the pod, it lit up. Then it just connected to me?" "Connected?" Lyra repeated. "Yes." I felt a soft pressure in my mind. Not a voice. Not an image. Just a sensation that it wanted to be held. Lyra's antennae lowered in disbelief and concern. That relic has never reacted to any council member? Not once in hundreds of years. I know, Ethan said. But maybe it reacts to humans. Lyra studied him quietly. Humans were known for many qualities: imaginative thinking, emotional range, problem-solving instincts, and a certain bold curiosity. But none of those explained why an ancient device would respond to a species the galaxy had only recently discovered. She took a calming breath. Ethan, do you realize the Council will demand explanations? This artifact is incredibly important. It cannot be mishandled. I understand, he said sincerely. That's why I didn't hide it. I wanted to show you first. Lyra appreciated his honesty. Humans often behaved in direct, open ways that other species found unusual but refreshing. Still, she couldn't ignore the situation. Tell me everything that happened, she said. Ethan thought for a moment, then began explaining. Earlier that morning, he had been in the relic vault's outer hall, studying old records of star formation patterns when the security panel flickered, not malfunctioning, but responding to something. The energy field shifted from its usual blue to a warm gold, which had never happened before. Then one of the sealed pods opened. Inside it was the Aurora core. Ethan didn't mean to touch it. The core floated gently into his hands, like a feather drifting on a soft breeze. The instant he made contact, it lit up in a swirl of soft colors: blue, green, violet, and white. As it glowed, Ethan felt a gentle sensation, almost like the core was scanning him, but without any discomfort. Lyra listened carefully, trying to absorb every detail. When he finished, she looked again at the artifact, which still drifted peacefully above the table. She approached it cautiously and extended her hand, not to touch.
Altasis.
The energy around the core responded to her presence, but only faintly. Nothing changed in its glow, its hum, or its pulses. Then Ethan stepped closer, and the core brightened noticeably. Lyra took a small step back in surprise. It reacts to you, she whispered. Ethan frowned, watching the colors shift. I didn't do anything. It just feels like it recognizes me. Lyra tried to stay logical. Perhaps the relic is responding to a specific biological pattern. Or maybe humans emit some unique frequency. Ethan gently touched the hovering cube. But why would a relic that old recognize humans? We weren't even in the galaxy when this device was made. Lyra didn't have an answer, and that bothered her deeply. The Council archives described the Aurora core as a tool from a vanished civilization older than any living species, older than the Council itself. No one understood its purpose, and all attempts to study it had failed. Yet here it was, glowing softly in the hands of a representative from a young world. Lyra straightened and folded her hands behind her back, a gesture of thoughtful professionalism. Ethan Cole, she said, we need to report this immediately. But before we do, I must ask you to describe how the core makes you feel at this moment. Ethan took a slow breath. It feels peaceful, like it wants to show something, like it's waiting for the right moment. Show what? Lyra asked. I don't know, but I think it's trying to communicate. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Communicate? With you? Ethan nodded. I think so. Not with words, but with energy. It's like it's giving me pieces of a puzzle. Lyra knew one thing for certain. This was no ordinary discovery. This could change the Council's understanding of ancient technology, possibly the galaxy's future. And somehow, a human had become the center of it. She exhaled slowly. Very well. For now, we keep this quiet until we understand more. But Ethan, whatever is happening here, it is bigger than both of us. Ethan gave a small, steady nod. I know, and I'm ready to help. Lyra looked at the glowing core one more time, feeling a mysterious pull within its light. Something ancient had awakened, and it had chosen a human. The next morning began quietly in the Galactic Council embassy. But the atmosphere felt different, almost heavier, as if the walls themselves sensed a shift in the flow of events. Ambassador Lyra walked through the corridors with careful steps, her mind filled with questions that refused to settle. The image of Ethan holding the glowing Aurora core still lingered in her thoughts. refusing to fade. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the relic responding to a human in a way no one had ever witnessed before. It didn't make logical sense. The core belonged to an age far older than any living species. How could it possibly react to someone whose people had only recently joined the council? As she approached the research wing, she took a deep breath and straightened her robe. She needed to stay calm. Today she planned to gather quiet data before presenting anything to the council leaders. She didn't want panic. She didn't want rumors. And she definitely did not want anyone mishandling Ethan's situation. When she entered the research room, she found Ethan already there. He sat near the center table, studying the Aurora core, which hovered calmly above the surface like a peaceful lantern. Its soft glow washed over the walls in gentle waves. Ethan looked up as she arrived. "Good morning, Ambassador." "Good morning," she replied, trying to keep her tone steady. "Did anything unusual happen overnight?" "Nothing dangerous," Ethan said. "But the core was active again. It glowed brighter whenever I approached it." Lyra stepped closer, observing the relic. The colors shifted slowly from blue to soft green to pale gold-like. The device was breathing in light. "It responds to your presence," she murmured. "I noticed," Ethan said. "I think it's trying to share something. But I don't fully understand how." Lyra tapped her datapad, recording the details. "You mentioned yesterday that it communicates through sensations, not words. Is that still happening?" Ethan nodded. "Yes. It's faint, but it's there. When I hold it, I feel small impressions, almost like gentle hints." "Hints of what?" Lyra asked, curiosity growing. Ethan tilted his head, thinking carefully before answering. "Patterns. Images of stars. Shapes that look like parts of the galaxy, and a feeling that something is out of balance." Lyra's antennae lifted slightly. "A disturbance. Possibly," Ethan said. "But it's not clear enough to understand yet." Lyra walked around the table, studying the core from different angles. "Ethan, may I ask something? When you interact with the relic, do you ever feel overwhelmed?" "No," Ethan replied. "Actually, it feels calm. It's almost like it's trying to guide me slowly, step by step." Lyra considered his answer. Many relics in the archives were known to overload the minds of researchers, even during passive scans. But Ethan appeared unaffected, almost comfortable. Another question formed quietly in her mind. Why him? Why humanity? Before she could ask more, the door to the research room slid open, and an elderly Valorian researcher shuffled inside. His name was Professor Yalin, one of the longest-serving relic analysts in the council. He preferred quiet tasks and seldom spoke unless necessary. Lyra greeted him respectfully. "Professor Yalin, thank you for coming on short notice." The professor adjusted his round lenses and nodded. "I was told you required a confidentiality evaluation. How may I assist?" Lyra motioned toward the table. "We need your expertise with this artifact. But please remain calm." Yalin turned, saw the Aurora core, and froze. For a moment, he didn't speak. His eyes widened behind the lenses, and his fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but pure surprise. That is the Aurora core," he whispered. "Yes," Lyra said gently, "and it seems to have activated." Yalon slowly approached the table, studying the relic without touching it. "I have spent nearly half my life analyzing fragments of this artifact. Nothing we tried ever caused it to glow. Nothing we scanned ever revealed its purpose." He looked at Ethan, confused. "Yet now, it is active. Why?" Lyra exchanged a glance with Ethan. "We believe it responds to him," she said softly. Professor Yolin leaned forward, examining Ethan with fascination. "You, a human?" Ethan gave an awkward but friendly shrug. "It wasn't something I planned." The professor walked around him, observing from different angles, as if trying to detect what made Ethan different. "Human biology is unique, yes," Yalin said. "But so are dozens of other species. Why would a relic from an ancient civilization choose you?" Ethan looked at the core again. "I wish I knew." Yalin tapped his chin thoughtfully. "Ambassador Lyra, may I run a proximity test?" Purely observational, no physical contact. Course, she said. Jal stepped back, raised his wrist scanner, and activated it. A soft beam of harmless light swept across the core. The colors of the relic remained stable. Then he turned to Ward. Ethan, please step closer to the artifact. Ethan approached, taking slow, even steps. As soon as he neared the core, it brightened. Soft patterns of light swirled across its surface, forming shapes curves, lines, delicate spirals. Jalen's scanner beeped rapidly. Incredible. The relic's energy output increases only when the human is near. Lyra nodded. We observed this yesterday as well. Yalan lowered his scanner in awe. This is unprecedented. The relic is responding to him directly. It is almost communicating. That's what Ethan said, Lyra replied. The professor turned to Ethan. You mentioned sensations? Impressions. Yes, Ethan said. I see shapes, patterns, something that looks like a map, but I don't know what it means. Jalen's expression sharpened with interest. A map. Many theorize the core contains cosmic data. If it is showing you something, the information could be important. Lyra stepped closer. Do you think the relic is trying to warn us about something? Yalan hesitated. It is possible. Many ancient civilizations created devices to record cosmic changes, but we never knew what the Aurora core was meant for. Ethan reached out and gently placed his hands under the glowing cube. It floated above his palms as if weightless. Immediately, the light shifted into a soft, constellation-like pattern. Lyra held her breath. The lights formed a swirling shape, like a cloud of stars rotating gently. Then a section of the pattern darkened slightly, as though showing a disturbance. Ethan spoke quietly. This is what I saw earlier. This area. He pointed at the dim section. I think something is changing there. Something the core wants us to understand. Yalan leaned in. That region belongs to the outer cluster. It is known for unpredictable star behavior. Lyra typed notes quickly. Ethan, do the impressions feel urgent? Not urgent, he said, but steady. Like the core wants us to pay attention, not panic. Yalan nodded thoughtfully. That matches ancient relic behavior. Many of them were designed to warn, not frighten. Lyra closed her datapad and looked at both of them. We cannot present this to the entire council yet. Not until we understand more. Rumors could spread quickly, and misunderstandings could lead to unnecessary fear. Yalan agreed. The safest approach is controlled research. Only a few should know. Ethan gently placed the relic back on the table, and the lights dimmed to a soft glow. Lyra turned to him. Ethan, I must ask, are you comfortable continuing to work with the core? He nodded firmly. Yes, I think it wants to help, and I want to understand it. She felt a quiet trust forming between them. Ethan did not show fear or hesitation. He simply stood ready to help, even though he didn't fully know what he had been chosen for. Very well, Lyra said. We continue in small steps. Quiet steps. The core is peaceful, but its message is still unclear. Yolan collected his equipment. I will run extended scans tonight. But one thing is certain. The relic has awakened, and it has chosen the human for a reason. Lyra looked again at the glowing cube. Something ancient had opened its door, and Ethan Cole stood at the center of a mystery older than the council itself. The research room felt unusually calm the next day, but that calmness carried a quiet tension beneath it. Ambassador Lyra entered early, expecting to find Ethan and Professor Yalan already studying the Aurora core. Instead, she found the room softly lit, empty, and completely silent except for the faint hum of the artifact floating above the table. The core glowed. Late gently, almost like it was breathing in slow waves of light, Lyra paused in the doorway. It is already awake, she whispered to herself. She stepped closer. Whenever the core pulsed, tiny patterns moved across its surface, patterns she couldn't understand. She wondered if Ethan would see more than she could. Humans had a way of noticing things others missed. A moment later, the door opened again. Ethan walked in, holding a cup of tea and wearing a slightly tired expression. Good morning, he said with a small smile. Good morning, Lyra replied. Did you sleep well? A little, Ethan said with a soft laugh. The core kept sending impressions. Not loud or stressful, just steady. Like it wanted to share something important. Lyra nodded. Professor Yolan should arrive soon. For now, can you tell me what the core showed you during the night? Ethan set his cup aside and approached the artifact. It kept showing me a group of stars. At first, I thought it was the same pattern we saw yesterday, but now I'm sure it's pointing to a specific region. Which region? Lyra asked. Ethan raised his hand slowly toward the core. The relic responded instantly, brightening with gentle waves of light. Shapes began to shift across its surface, forming a star map in midair. The glowing lines connected one by one, drawing an image of a distant section far from the Council's central territories. Lyra leaned in, her eyes widening. That is the Varanth Spiral, right, Ethan said. And look here. He pointed to a darker cluster the core kept circling with a soft glow. This area keeps showing up. The core wants us to look at it. Lyra frowned thoughtfully. The Varanth Spiral is known for unstable star patterns. Nothing dangerous, but unpredictable. The Council has studied it before, but they never found anything unusual. Ethan shook his head. The core thinks something has changed. Something new. Before Lyra could respond, the door slid open and Professor Yalin hurried inside, holding several scanning devices. Apologies for the delay, he said. I was running night-long cross-analysis of the relic's energy signals. He stopped short when he saw the star map glowing in the air. Ah, it is displaying the pattern again, Ethan nodded. It keeps guiding me to this one region. Yalin moved closer, adjusting his lenses. The energy signature is stronger around that cluster. The relic is focusing there for a reason. Lyra folded her hands behind her back. Professor, yesterday you said the core might contain cosmic data from an ancient civilization. Could this be a message from them? Yalin considered the idea. It is possible. Ancient species often recorded their understanding of cosmic movements. If the core has activated now, it may be responding to a change in the galaxy's natural balance. Lyra glanced at Ethan, and the core is choosing a human to deliver that message. Ethan looked a bit embarrassed, but not frightened. I guess so. Professor Yolan walked around the table, studying both Ethan and the artifact. Let us try something, he said gently. Ethan, place your hand near the core again. Allow the impressions to come. Describe everything you sense. Ethan nodded. He took a slow breath and stepped close to the relic. The core brightened immediately, its light spreading outward in a soft wave. A moment later, Ethan's eyes unfocused slightly nod in a dangerous way, but in concentration. He stood very still. I see the stars again, he said quietly. The same spiral pattern, but there's something new this time. Lyra remained silent, listening carefully. Ethan raised his hand, pointing toward the darker cluster in the projection. It's like the core wants us to pay attention to energy waves there. Gentle waves, not harmful. Just shifting slowly. Yalin took notes quickly. A shift in energy flow? Perhaps a natural phenomenon? Ethan shook his head slightly. No, not natural. Something left behind. He paused, thinking. The core shows me shapes. Structures. They look old. Very old. Lyra's antennae lifted. Structures. In space? Yes, something built long ago. Not active, but still affecting the surrounding energy. Yalin stared at Ethan in disbelief. You are saying the relic is guiding you to a forgotten structure? One no one else has ever seen? Ethan nodded, still focused. That's what it feels like. Something ancient, quiet, but still present. Lyra stepped closer to him. Does the core show how old these structures are? Ethan took a moment. They feel older than anything the Council has records of. Yalin tapped his datapad nervously. This is remarkable. If the core is pointing to ancient structures, they could be from the same civilization that created it. Lyra's voice softened. Ethan, do you feel safe? The impressions, are they peaceful? Yes, Ethan said immediately. The core isn't trying to push or pressure me. It just shares information gently. Lyra exhaled with relief. Good. That is important. The core dimmed slightly, as if resting after transferring the impressions. Ethan stepped back, rubbing the back of his neck. Yolan examined the star map again. This cluster is remote. Few travel there. If something ancient is hidden there, the Council would never have found it through normal exploration. Lyra nodded slowly. So the core is revealing a secret only now at a time it believes we need to know. Ethan poured himself another cup of tea, letting his mind settle. If the core wanted to warn us, he said, wouldn't it show danger clearly? Yalan shook his head. Not necessarily. Ancient relics often communicated with hints. They assumed future civilizations would have the intelligence to understand slowly. So it's teaching us, Ethan said. Exactly, Yolan replied. Step by step. Lyra tapped her datapad thoughtfully. Then we need to understand the next step. She looked up at Ethan again. Did the impressions show what we should do now? Ethan thought deeply before answering. It didn't show me a solution. Just the location and a feeling. What kind of feeling? Lyra asked gently. Curiosity, Ethan said. The core wants us to look, to explore, to understand something important. Yolan nodded in agreement. That aligns with relic behavior. It wants to guide, not control. Lyra took a quiet breath and straightened. Then we must prepare. But we will do this carefully, quietly, without alerting the entire council. Yolan looked surprised. You do not wish to inform them yet? Not until we understand more, Lyra said firmly. If we show them incomplete information, they may misinterpret it. The core is peaceful. We will not create fear where none is needed. Ethan looked relieved. That sounds reasonable. Lyra approached the core again, observing its soft glow. Ethan, she said softly, this relic chose you for a reason. Whatever message it holds, it trusts you to understand it. Ethan nodded with quiet determination. I'll do my best. The core pulsed gently, as if agreeing. Professor Yolan closed his scanner. I will prepare long-range data from the Varanth spiral. We may find matching patterns. Lyra gave him a grateful nod. Thank you, Professor. As the older researcher left the room, Lyra turned back to Ethan. The core is giving us pieces of a puzzle, she said softly. And now we know the puzzle involves something hidden in the Varanth spiral. Ethan stared at the floating relic. Something ancient, he murmured. Something waiting to be found. Lyra's voice carried a quiet certainty. And I believe that whatever we discover there is only the beginning. The next few days passed with quiet preparation. Ambassador Lyra, Professor Yalan, and Ethan worked patiently in the research wing, collecting every piece of information the Aurora Core shared. Each morning, the relic glowed softly, as if greeting Ethan. Each night, it dimmed in a peaceful rest, humming gently like a living memory. The room began to feel different, warmer, brighter, almost alive, by the fourth morning. Lyra walked in to find Ethan sitting near the table, his eyes closed, hands resting on the surface while the core hovered above him. The relic's light painted soft patterns across the walls, almost like ancient symbols written with starlight. She didn't interrupt. Instead, she quietly stepped forward and watched. After a few minutes, Ethan opened his eyes. They held a calm focus, as if he had just listened to something important. Good morning, he said softly. Good morning, Lyra replied. You seem deep in thought, Ethan admitted. The core showed more last night. Not just stars or structures this time, but people. Lyra's antennae lifted with interest. The ancient civilization? I think so, Ethan said. But it wasn't clear. More like gentle impressions. Peaceful scenes. Their cities weren't large or crowded. They seemed calm, quiet, balanced. Lyra sat across from him. Did the core show who they were? No faces, Ethan said. Just shapes, outlines. Like the core wants me to understand them slowly. Before Lyra could ask more, the door opened and Professor Yolan entered with a stack of data tablets. You were both early, he said. Good. We have a long day ahead. He set the tablets down with excitement sparkling in his eyes. I ran energy comparisons last night, the professor said. The patterns Ethan described, those small waves from the Varanth spiral, they match ancient relic signals recorded in forgotten archives. Lyra leaned forward. Forgotten archives? Which ones? Yalan smiled in a proud but tired way. The archives of the first explorers. The council rarely reviews them because the information is old and incomplete. But some of the drawings and notes show shapes similar to what Ethan described. Ethan looked surprised. So the structures the core showed me, they exist? Possibly, Yalan said. They might be ruins left by the civilization that created the core. Lyra tapped her datapad thoughtfully. Then the core is pointing us toward its own origin. Ethan nodded slowly. It feels like that. Like it wants us to find something the ancient builders left behind. Yolan raised a hand. But there's more. Last night, the relic's energy caused one of the older tablets to activate. The tablet displayed a pattern that researchers could never decode before. However, now that we have Ethan's impressions, I believe I can interpret it. Lyra and Ethan both leaned closer as Yolan retrieved the old tablet and powered it on. Faint lines appeared on the screen circles, spirals, and lines that seemed random at first, but when Yalan placed the tablet near the Aurora core, the relic brightened and projected soft beams of light across the screen. The patterns aligned perfectly. Ethan gasped softly. Those symbols. That's what I saw last night. Lyra felt her heart lift with excitement. Professor, can you explain what the pattern means? Yelena adjusted his lenses, examining the symbols carefully. I believe they represent an awakening sequence. A way to activate ancient structures, possibly the ones hidden in the Varanth spiral. Ethan looked concerned. Activate. That sounds complicated. It may not mean activation in a dangerous way, Yalan clarified. More likely, it means revealing their purpose, or opening communication. The ancient civilization could have left instructions for future species. Lyra turned toward the core, and the relic selected Ethan to follow those instructions. A gentle pulse of light spread. From the core, as if agreeing, Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. I still don't understand why humans. There are so many species older and more advanced. Yalan gave him a thoughtful look. Age does not always matter. Sometimes adaptability and curiosity are more important. Lyra nodded. Humans think differently. You imagine new ideas quickly. You explore without fear. You look at problems from angles others would never consider. Ethan gave a small, shy smile. Thank you, but I still feel a bit confused. Lyra placed a gentle hand near the table. Perhaps that is exactly why the core chose you. You do not rush. You listen, Elone added, and the relic trusts your calm approach. The core pulsed again, this time brighter, spreading light patterns across the room. The shapes in the projection shifted slowly until they formed something new. A peaceful valley, a gentle sky, tall crystalline towers glowing with soft blue energy. Ethan inhaled softly. This is the ancient city. Lyra's eyes widened as she studied the scene. It is beautiful, Yalan whispered. Incredible. An entire city preserved inside the relic's memory. The projection moved again, showing the inhabitants not clearly, but as silhouettes. Tall, graceful shapes, moving in harmony. Their surroundings shimmered with an energy that felt warm and calm. Ethan spoke gently. They weren't a loud or busy species. They valued balance, peace, and understanding. Lyra nodded slowly. It makes sense then. Why they would create a relic that speaks through gentle impressions instead of strong signals. Yalan leaned closer, eyes full of fascination. Notice how they interact with the structures. They use energy through their hands, exactly how the core responds to Ethan. Ethan looked down at his palms. So maybe humans have something similar? A compatible way of sensing? Possibly, Yalan said. Your neural patterns could match the relic's design. The projection shifted again. This time, the scene showed the same city, but quieter, dimmer. The towers no longer glowed as brightly. The inhabitants' shapes were faint, almost fading. Ethan felt a soft sadness in his chest. They were leaving. Lyra's voice softened. Leaving. Or fading away. Yalan closed his eyes briefly. Perhaps their time ended naturally. Civilizations rise and pass, just like stars. The core dimmed for a moment, as if remembering something distant. Then it slowly brightened again, showing a final image. A group of the ancient beings placing the Aurora core into a pedestal. Their gestures were gentle, almost hopeful. Ethan saw the impression clearly. They didn't build the core to be a weapon. They built it as a message. A teacher. Something that could guide future species. Lyra's antennae lowered in understanding. They wanted someone in the future to continue their knowledge. Yalan whispered a legacy. The projection faded, and the core returned to its soft, steady glow. Ethan stepped back, breath steady but full of meaning. So the core wasn't just waiting for anyone. It was waiting for the right type of mind, Lyra nodded. And it chose humans because of the way you think and feel, Yalan added. Your combination of logic, emotion, and creativity matches the ancient builder's intentions. Ethan looked at the glowing relic. A peaceful hum filled the room, quiet, reassuring, almost affectionate. So what now? He asked quietly. Lyra stood tall, her voice calm but full of purpose. Now we follow the path they left for us. The core has shown its history and its message. The next step is clear, Yalan nodded. We must travel to the Varanth Spiral. Ethan felt a soft excitement mixed with responsibility, and discover what the ancient civilization wanted us to find. The core brightened one last time, casting the room in warm, hopeful light like a silent promise of guidance. The legacy of a vanished species was it's longer forgotten. It had awakened, and it had chosen humanity. The journey to the Varanth Spiral began before sunrise. Ambassador Lyra, Ethan, and Professor Yalan stood on the launch platform as their small research vessel hummed to life. The ship wasn't large, but it was fast and equipped with the latest scanning tools the station could provide. The Aurora core rested in a containment cradle at the center of the ship's main chamber. It glowed with calm, steady light, almost as if it understood where they were going and why. Ethan took one last look at the station behind them. Hard to believe we're leaving already, he said softly. Lyra stepped beside him. This mission is important. The core has shown us a direction. If we do not follow it, we may never understand its full purpose. Yalan adjusted his datapad. And besides, this voyage could reveal something the galaxy has forgotten for many ages. The ancient civilization might have left more than memories. Ethan nodded. Then let's go find it. Moments later, the ship lifted from the platform and drifted into open space. The stars stretched into long silver lines as the vessel entered faster than light travel. Hours passed in peaceful silence. The hum of the engines mixed with the gentle pulse of the core, creating a calm atmosphere inside the ship. Lyra sat at the navigation panel, reviewing sensor readings. Yalan studied the energy patterns the core emitted. Ethan sat near the relic, watching the lights change in slow rhythms. A soft pulse spread across the chamber. Ethan looked up. It's showing something. The relic rose slightly from its cradle, glowing brighter, and a faint projection formed above it. Not a city this time. Not the ancient beings. A star map. A trail of small light points connected in a curved path. Leading into the Varanth Spiral, Lyra leaned closer. These coordinates? They're deeper than our scanners have ever detected. Yalan frowned gently. That region is usually quiet. Almost too quiet. No strong energy readings, no signals, nothing recorded. Ethan studied the projection. It doesn't feel empty. It feels hidden. Lyra nodded slowly. Perhaps the ancient civilization chose that place on purpose. The core pulsed once, as if agreeing. After several more hours, the ship slowed as it reached the outer edge of the Varanth Spiral. The spiral was a breathtaking sight, clouds of silver dust, glowing lines of soft blue particles, and swirling patterns that looked almost like gentle waves frozen in space. Ethan stepped closer to the viewing window. It's beautiful, Lyra's voice softened. It is unlike anything I have seen before. Yalan checked his instruments. The energy here is very stable. too stable, it feels. Maintained. Ethan turned. Maintained? By what? I do not know, the professor said. But something keeps this region in perfect balance. The core brightened suddenly and floated forward. Guiding them, the ship followed. Deeper and deeper, they moved into the spiral. Following the glowing trail, the core projected. As they traveled, the dust clouds parted in smooth, silent waves, almost welcoming their arrival. Ethan watched in awe. It's like the spiral is opening for us. Lyra nodded quietly. This is no natural behavior. Someone created this. Someone ancient. Someone wise. Someone who left messages inside a crystal relic for the future. After a short while, the ship reached a hollow pocket inside the spiral, a calm region with no dust, no stars. Only soft, glowing mist. At the center of the empty space floated a massive structure. It was not metal, not stone, not any material known to the galaxy. It looked like a giant, crystalline ring, thousands of meters wide, glowing gently like a sleeping star. Its surface was smooth and transparent, with patterns shifting inside like slow rivers of light. Ethan whispered that is from the ancient civilization. Lyra stared silently, breath held in awe. No records in any archive mentioned something like this. Jalen's eyes widened behind his lenses. This is a memory ring. I have read about this only once in a story believed to be symbolic. A ring containing knowledge preserved in energy form. Ethan stepped forward, almost unconsciously, and the core is a key. As if responding to his words, the core lifted from its cradle and floated toward the viewing window. Its glow spread across the chamber. The ship's scanners suddenly activated on their own. Symbols appeared on the monitor's smooth spirals, gentle lines, ancient shapes. Lyra recognized them. The same symbols we saw inside the core projections. Yalan nodded with excitement. The ring is responding to the relic. The core projected a final image, bright and clear. A single line of moving light, a path, toward the center of the ring. Ethan swallowed, feeling both amazed and nervous. It wants us to approach. Lyra guided the ship slowly forward, gliding toward the glowing structure. The ring remained completely still, almost peaceful, as if it had been waiting. The closer they came, the brighter the core shined, until the entire chamber filled with soft golden light. Then, as the ship reached the center of the ring, everything went silent. The mist outside disappeared, the screens turned blank, the engines went quiet. Only the core glowed. Then the ring awakened. Light flowed through it like gentle waves, spreading outward in steady patterns. The entire structure pulsed with soft energy. Then a projection formed around the ship, huge, clear, and detailed millions of symbols, cities, bridges of light, rivers, energy, knowledge, history, everything the ancient civilization learned, understood, and valued appeared around them in glowing patterns. Ethan felt breathless. They left their entire legacy here. Lyra stood perfectly still. This is more than we expected. Jalen's voice trembled with awe. This could change the understanding of every species in the galaxy. The core hovered between them, glowing calmly. It wasn't forcing anything. It wasn't controlling anything. It was offering a gentle voice calm. Neutral, neither human nor alien filled the chamber. Not a spoken language. Not sound. A message shaped inside their minds, translated by the core. Knowledge belongs to those who seek with peaceful hearts. Ethan felt warmth spread through his chest. They trusted us, the message continued. Carry our lessons with care. Share them with kindness. Remember that understanding is a bridge, not a boundary. Lyra's eyes softened. They believe unity is stronger than conflict. Yalan nodded slowly, and they wanted future species to grow without repeating old mistakes. The projections shifted again, showing instructions how to read their energy symbols, how their structures worked, how they shaped light, how they lived, learned, and built their civilization. The ring wasn't a tomb, it was a library, a gift. Finally, the message faded, and the ring's light softened, Ethan turned to Lyra and Yalin. "So, what do we do now?" Lyra placed a gentle hand on the table. "We do what they asked. We learn, we share. Not all at once. Not in a rush. But with care," Yolan nodded. "We bring this knowledge back to the Council, and we ensure that every species benefits from it equally." Ethan looked at the core, which now glowed gently like a small sun. "And the relic?" Lyra smiled softly. "It remains with you, Ethan. You are the one it trusts." Ethan felt humbled. "I'll do my best," Lyra replied. "You already have." As the ship began its slow journey back through the spiral, the ring behind them faded into gentle light. Returning to its quiet rest until another seeker arrived, Ethan watched the glowing structure. One last time, a civilization long gone had left a final message for the galaxy. Peace, unity, understanding, and the hope that someone in the future would carry their light forward. Ethan, Lyra, and Yalin were now the keepers of that light, and the journey of the Aurora Core had only just begun.